This next question asks for my opinion on marriage. What's the rush? Is marriage even necessary? Is it better to just date and remain girlfriend and boyfriend? My opinion on marriage is that ultimately it boils down to an agreement between two people, an agreement to grow together, an agreement to communicate openly, an agreement to agree to disagree, and honestly to make a life with another person um, at all costs. Marriage is a great thing, in my opinion, if and only if the motivations of both parties are genuine and are in alignment with each other and in alignment with the plan that God has for that couple as well as those individuals. What's the rush? Well, we especially live in an atmosphere, a society, a time that encourages us not to go at this life alone. It encourages us that our best years are our most youthful years and that we should find a mate at a very youthful point in our lives and uh, make a life with this mate very young. And we have social images that promote that, social messages that promote that, our rom-coms, our movies, right? Our media influences suggest that in our most youthful, vulnerable state, we should be looking for a long-term mate and looking to settle down and make a life. Now, the problem that I have with the imagery is that if you find yourself quote unquote settled in your youthful, vulnerable state, then that could be misconceived or misconstrued as you being a flawed person. That's where I disagree. I think when you are young and at your most vulnerable, your most sensitive stage of life where you are most impressionable and you have so many choices available to you, I disagree that we should be promoting people in this stage of their lives to find a mate, a forever partner, and stop life in order to grow with that person. And if that becomes your choice at a very young and vulnerable age, I think that is to be celebrated and commended. Except I don't believe that the younger people who have opted against finding a mate at a youthful, vulnerable, impressionable age and settling or having a family young, I don't think those persons should be looked at as flawed or as if they're not living appropriately into their potential. Another reason I believe that there's a rush has everything to do with this status, for lack of a better word, the status that being married or having a husband or being a wife can sometimes bring. To some people, there is a status and a value, again, attached to your last name, whether or not your title is Mrs. as opposed to Ms., and whether or not you can call yourself someone's wife or someone's husband. And so, because there's value socially in that, there's value in the process, there's value in the wedding, there's value in the announcement and the engagement and the courtship. When you think about it financially, these are multi-billion-dollar businesses, right? So there's value in each step of the courtship that leads to marriage. And there's this social value attached to the marriage itself. And some of us, more than others, do feel the pressure, do feel the intimidation of the rush to marry. Is marriage necessary? Well, of course, this is opinion based, so I can only provide my opinion. But my blanket opinion is the necessity of marriage is definitely cultural, it's individual, it's spiritual, and so while it may be necessary to one couple to be a married couple, it may also not be necessary to another couple to be a married couple. If you know in your heart of hearts that you desire long-term partnership, that being a serial monogamist is your jam, marriage may be necessary for you. There's a comfort, there's a security in the setup of knowing that you want long-term partnership, that you want to be a long-term partner, and that there's someone out here who wants the same things that you do. There are others of us who do desire long-term partnership, may not necessarily be a serial monogamist, but can understand the value of commitment, can understand the value of the virtues of being with one person at a time. And marriage may not be necessary for that person. So I think the true answer to that question, in my opinion, lies in each individual being able to dig really deep and find out their why about marriage. Why do I desire marriage? Are these reasons genuine? Are they my reasons, or are they cultural or expectations? And then, is marriage necessary if I'm not a wife, if I'm not a husband? Will I have a different value of myself? Will I have a different value of my life? And then I think in those answers is where you'll find whether marriage is necessary for you. Is it better to just remain in a relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend, or is it better to just cohabitate than to go through the legal process of getting married? Again, to thine own self be true. Some of us, because of the expectations, the external expectations, which have, over the time become internal expectations. These expectations of marriage and partnership overshadow so many things. They overshadow sometimes what we individually and collectively as a couple even know that we want. Some of us as very young couples or old couples who've just been around the block many, many times feel pressured because we've been together so long. We've lived together so long. We actually have children together, and every holiday, people are asking us why we're not married yet. We may as well get married. Some people resolve to. Whether or not you decide to stay as boyfriend and girlfriend, or baby mama and baby daddy, or whatever you call yourselves, whether or not you decide to be married is absolutely personal, it's individual, and it has to do with the collective needs of you too. Some of us are in one-sided marriages. We're married, but we acquiesced. We agreed, not because it was necessarily the decision that was best for us, but because it just made sense. And because of this decision, some of us aren't as happy, contented, self-realized in their marriages. I can't say what's best for anyone, as much as I know that if you are attuned and aligned with spirit, if you are attuned and aligned with yourself and what makes your heart sing and what gives you butterflies and what you know you want long term for your life, if that is partnership and monogamy, there is no shame in that. I think you should pursue that openly, unabashedly, doggedly, until you get that life. And I root the same for the converse. If you know in your heart of hearts that what gives you butterflies is indeed being a romantic butterfly and having multiple experiences of dating, having multiple experiences of socializing. If you cannot see yourself with one person for years and years, I don't think that there's anything wrong with you being self-actualized and realized in that truth as well, and to pursue that doggedly and to be as unabashed in those desires as well. Ultimately, that's what I think leads to happiness. I don't know that marriage leads to happiness. I believe that it's a byproduct A good marriage is a byproduct of happiness. I believe in order to find that, instead of pursuing marriage, you should pursue your personal truth. Who do you want to be? How do you see yourself? What makes your heart sing? What gives you butterflies? And be unabashed in that and know that God's supply of love is infinite. It is overly abundant. And the person who has that same love language, that same love style, those same love expectations is out there waiting for you to follow your heart and be true to yourself, is my advice.